Okay, so we're learning about Virodha Bhava right now. So my topic is mainly focused on Ravana, Virodha Bhava and Ravana. Understanding Ramayana to be the first itihasa, the first text, and itihasa meaning it's literally what occurred, right? So we're looking at pretty much the first villain to ever be depicted in a story, right? So every character in Ramayana, as we know, and everybody says, every character is supposed to be an ideal example of that character that they portray, whether it be a brother or an enemy or a friend or an advisor. So when we look at Rama as a hero, we have to expect the villain to be almost equal to Rama in his own manner, right? So we're going to look more into this topic now. So the topics that I'm going to cover are mainly three. The first thing is Ravana as a person, the things that Ravana embodies. The second thing is how Ravana changes through the course of Ramayana, the aspects of Ravana which change. And third, the events that caused the change in Ravana's character, right? Because we saw that the whole point of all these bhavas is to bring that person closer to divinity or closer to realization, right? So each of these are an aspect or an approach. So, how do these events bring Ravana closer to Rama? On a funny side note, though, Ravana or Kumbhakarna or Vibhishana, all three, they get close to Ravana in their own Rama in their own different ways. Kumbhakarna, Ravana, they go through Yuddham, Virodha Bhavam, they approach Rama. If you look at Vibhishana, the same person, he goes to Sharanagati and attains Rama. So we see in Ramayana itself, within the three brothers, there are different approaches to the same goal. So the first thing, Ravana.
Kumbhakarna is half Ravana, half Vibhishana.
Yeah, Kumbhakarna is half Ravana, half Vibhishana. He's advising Ravana also. Be careful about the path in which he treads. And he also helps, that is, follows Ravana's approach of fighting to protect Sita or to gain Sita. So coming to Ravana now, the first slide is a bit harsh, I'd say, but Ravana, when you look at Ravana, he is a man of multiple characters or multiple facets. And the most important one, which is pretty much the reason why I believe that Ramayana itself has a value, is that the occurrence of Ravana abducting Sita, which instigates the whole Ramayana itself. Of course, that's a controversial topic, but Ravana abducting Sita is what gives Rama the opportunity to placate his in the epic. So we see here the type of person that Ravana is. Indriyani Purajitva Jitam Tribhuvanam Tvaya. This is told by Mandodari in Uttaganda. Of course, the second part of this line says that the same senses, this line means is saying that Ravana is the person who conquered the senses in the three worlds. But after this, the second part of this shloka is she herself says the same three senses, the same senses are the reason why you've lost your life and lost all your values. Mandodari says this. So if you look at Ravana, he is a person who's very firm in his values or his beliefs, his cultural or ethnic practices, right? So if you look at Rama and Ravana, both people have opportunities or situations where they have to choose between dharma or what they believe is correct or what we are supposed to accept as correct and what is followed by the people at that period in time. To take Rama as an example, we see hunting, drinking, and eating meat. Cultural practices. It is very common for Kshatriyas to indulge in these activities, but Rama was willing to say and be firm that he wasn't going to touch any of these. Whereas here we see Ravana who takes this as an opportunity to indulge himself in his senses and enjoy his life, right? So we see a big difference in Rama and Ravana. The biggest one being what they hold as their kolhaina solra mari, what they hold as their prime value, what they hold as their adharam. So furthermore on Ravana, he has lots of values. And we also know that values are supposed to be aiding the dharmic character of a person. But in this case, Ravana is a person with so many values, but also he indulges in very criminal activities, as we know. And this is also the reason why, as Anna says, this is the reason why even though he abducts Sita, he's able to survive for so long because of the tapasya that he built through his austerities and his practices, right? And the first time Ravana gets involved in Ramayana, in the sense that he gets involved with the storyline, he comes to Ravana. Ravana comes towards Rama and approaches the whole group, right? The first time that happens is Surpanaka in Aranyakanda, right? So Ravana hears about Sita. So that's the first part that Ravana gets intertwined with the storyline of Ramayana. So Surpanaka tells Ravana about Sita's beauty, and she instigates Ravana to abduct Sita. So as we know, the story goes on. Ravana abducts Sita. The way it happens is Maricha, he lures Rama to the forest. Sita sends Lakshmana to, because she hears Rama shouting, so she sends Lakshmana to protect Rama or save Rama. Sita gets abducted and taken back to Ashokavatika in Lanka. And we also know that Ravana, as a person, is incapable of defeating Ravana in head on combat. This is told by Maricha himself. When Ravana approaches Maricha to help him abduct Sita, Maricha tells this to Ravana. And later on, Ravana himself accepts this. In Yuddha Kanda, during the war, he accepts this. Ravana's infatuation. So we know that Ravana's infatuation is the reason for his downfall. The biggest reason for his downfall was the fact that he had an issue controlling his lust. And the thing is that we also know in Ramayana it's shown that he had done this multiple times before Sita. And it was known that because Ravana definitely has lots of good values, but he is also having multiple bad values, which in turn caused his downfall. So we know that he was a powerful king. He was a true leader also because he was able to rule the world pretty much. And because of that, whenever he abducted someone, they had no choice. It wasn't a question of Uttu to Porde or something. No choice. Once they were abducted, they had to stay or they had to lose their life. So we see Ravana as a person who had done this multiple times before Sita, and Sita was pretty much the last thing that he did before his downfall occurred, right? So now we start going to the story of how Ravana himself attains his downfall, you'd say. So the first thing is Ravana had multiple members in his court, of which a few of them were gems, Vibhishana and Malyavan, certain people. Not all of them were perfect, but they were good advisors to Ravana. And Ravana is also an able leader. He's very intelligent. And as we know, a king should be more intelligent than his ministers. And Ravana is advised multiple times throughout Ramayana by Vibhishana, by Kumbhakarna, by Valyavan, yet he pays no heed to their words. And the first time he gets a realization that he may have made a mistake is in Sundarakanda when Hanuman pretty much bashes Ravana's ego directly. He destroys his courtiers, his ministers, his army, right inside, like right beside his palace. And so Ravana realizes that he has to get ready for a war now. So this is the first step towards Ravana realizing that he may have made a mistake. We see that obviously Vibhishana advises Ravana again. Ravana pays no heed and Vibhishana leaves. We also see that a small word, Samupastita Jwaraha, we see that small phrase that which shows that Ravana has a slight hint of fear. He's a bit scared now. He's not sure. And we see that when Rama builds the bridge, we know Ravana is an able leader. He's extremely intelligent. He's strategic. He's experienced. But in this case, and it's very obvious that when a person starts preparing for war, he should attempt to stop the war at that moment itself. Never take it to fatality, right? But in this case, Ravana tries to procrastinate the war from occurring. He doesn't take any action towards what Rama's doing, and he just plans in his own side on what they'll do and how they'll defeat Rama, who will kill who. That's all that happens. There's no actual planning going on. So we see that Ravana, in his mind, is unsure about actually defeating Rama in a war. So he's procrastinating the war itself from occurring. And once Vibhishana leaves, right, we can also understand that there's not many reasons for Ravana to continue keeping Sita, other than one, his own bad quality, which is lust. Two, his ego. He still has a slight belief that or he still has a large, or most of his court is still advising him, because advising him in the sense they're growing his ego, they're boosting his ego, saying that, we can defeat Rama. And so because of that, he's still held by his own ego to keep Sita. And because of that, these two main reasons, Sita is not returned back to Rama. So now the war occurs, the war starts, and I'm just going to skim through this part, but more or less, one by one, all the major leaders of Ravana's army are killed. And he also notices that the Vanara army, or Rama's army, is not changing in size, whereas his army is, getting destroyed day by day. And because of this, Ravana himself decides to enter into the battlefield. Here we see Ravana's way, like we see how powerful he is as a king and as a warrior also. He's able to go all the way towards Rama. Very few people and very few Rakshasas in Ramayana are, you know, termed or titled with greatness as a warrior. Very few people like Nikumba, Kumbhakarna. Few people in Ramayana are given that stature. And Ravana, obviously, as a king, he's expected to be the most powerful warrior of them all. He goes all the way till Rama, and at that point, he understands the difference between him and Rama. He notices how where we can notice how when the war starts, he sees himself at equal stature, but one by one, Rama destroys him. He destroys his weapons. He picks up a bow. Rama breaks it. He breaks a chariot, kills a charioteer. He drops the flag of Ravana. We see how utterly Ravana is destroyed on the battlefield. He's completely embarrassed. His ego gets shattered on the battlefield. His expectations were also shattered. He expected that he would be able to, sustain a war with Rama and survive and defeat Rama and keep Sita. But he realizes now that it's not going the way he expected. So after this, Ravana sends his brother Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna also gets killed. And at this point, he realizes because Kumbhakarna and Indrajit are his right hand and his left hand, right? They're the people who support Ravana through all his actions. Now Kumbhakarna is gone. He's trying to, think seriously about his actions. And he realizes that maybe he should have listened to his younger brother Vibhishana. He would have avoided all this conflict. The remaining Rakshasas, as they usually do, they boost Ravana's morale. You can still defeat Rama. We'll go fight. We'll kill all the Vanaras and we'll take care of Rama. You keep Sita. And of course, this Goshti also goes to war. They also get killed. And, it just continues more and more. So Ravana is the kind of person who's still believing that he can still do this because more people are supporting him. And at the end of the day, what happens is his own son, his lovable son Indrajit, also gets killed, right? And when his whole family, his children, all his relations, they all get defeated on the battlefield, all because of Ravana's intention to keep Sita, he realizes that Rama is Vishnu himself. Tammanye Raghavam Veeram Narayana Manamayam. He realizes that he's picked a fight with the wrong person, or more than that, he chose to stand in the wrong side of Dharma. And when his son dies, he completely loses hope, Indrajit. So first Kumbhakarna is gone. Of course, he has his ministers, his courtiers, but his right hand, Indrajit, is now gone, and he's standing on his own now. Imagine being a king and sitting in an empty room with no one to advise you, no one need you, your family is gone. He realizes finally that everybody's gone. Everybody who supported his, actions throughout his life, everybody has now left him, all because of his one intention to keep Sita. And because of this, we can also see Rama gives opportunities to Ravana, right? The first one, speaking about prominent opportunities, Hanuman coming, speaking to Ravana, and then Angada coming, speaking to Ravana. And then Ravana seems to get changed little by little. We can see that the amount of ego that he displays, the first fight he has with Rama, the amount of speech, the amount of, blabbering, the amount of titter, the things that he does, it starts dropping throughout the epic. From the beginning, the way he was, the stature that he had, and at the end, drooping shoulders, like withered, like he's lost his life. We see that Ravana's completely changed as a person itself. We see that at the end, Ravana's holding his hands in assembly. He's completely lost. He's given up. Ravana translated Vakyam Putra Vyasana Karshitaha. With the death of his son, now he's realized that he's lost everything. And now comes the part about growth. We see, as we saw, Ravana initially, the egotistical character, the guy who was the apt villain for Rama, the person who was able to stand with keeping Sita, abducting Sita, a person who was considered untouchable due to her chastity, who was able to survive for so long. This gem of a person, you would say, a leader, not a great person, but a powerful person. This kind of a person who ruled the world, a person who made the world scared of his existence, that type of a character is finally lost. He's unable to do anything. He doesn't know what to do after this. He's still unable to bow down and give up. He's just right now shocked that he's done. And all of the wealth that he's built, everything that he has created is now gone because of one mistake which he probably should not have made. We see that, of course, fighting is important, but everybody fights for a reason, right? Rama's reason is dharma. And to put it more, to word it better, it's especially for Sita. He wants Sita back and he wants to placate dharma back. For Ravana, his reason was not exactly a strong reason. It was more of animalistic desires that he wanted to maintain, he wanted to enjoy. And those were the reasons for his downfall. So we also can learn that the things that we hold important in life should be something which we can sustain for life, something which cannot be questioned for life. And that's where dharma comes in, right? Things that are eternal, things that will remain for eternity, things that we should value, those kind of things should be remembered and held by us and taught down through generations also. So finally, Ravana becomes receptive. Receptive in the sense, of course, it's not exactly a growth. For example, and a perfect example of growth from Virodha Bhava, I'd say would be Vashishta and Vishwamitra. The way through their conversations, one gets uplifted by the other, right? In this case, it's more of understanding that the person's thought process has changed. Ravana has realized the biggest example for the fact that he's realizing is that he's listening to Rama now. Initially, he would never listen. He would just start shouting. Rama would give his reasons back to Ravana and the war would commence. Now, Ravana is listening to Rama because he realizes that his purpose is lost. He's just standing there as a leader with no one to follow him. And what do we learn from this, right? So, because it's an itihasa,